Welcome to the Wellness Circuit. Today we have with us Deepthi Behel. She is a kidney transplant recipient, and today she will be talking about her journey and how she has succeeded and traveled all the way, and how she succeeded in this journey. Welcome to the show, Deepthi. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Sudha. Thank you for having me over.
Thank you very much. Tell us, Deepthi, about yourself, about your journey.
So, I'm originally from Delhi, India. I did my engineering in 2011 from NSIT Delhi in instrumentation and control, and then worked for a while in India for HSBC and Accenture. Then I moved to US in 2016 as an international student. Went to Purdue to do masters in business analytics and information management. Moved to LA for my first job straight out of grad school. Worked there for a while, and in 2019 I moved to Bay Area because I got a new offer here and joined Google as a data analyst. Life was going good. I made multiple switches, was going well in my career. Then all of a sudden in 2024, sometime in the mid, I started feeling a little unwell. So I was thought, let me go and consult a doctor. Before even I could visit a doctor, one day things became little out of my control. I was actually grasping for a breath, so went to ER and had to undergo a lot of blood work, ultrasounds, and urine tests. And then after 4 hours of waiting, news was broken to me by my nephrologist that both my kidneys had failed. My original kidney size has shrunk to 6.6 centimeter and 6.5 centimeter, and a normal human being has these kidneys like 11 to 12 centimeter in female. And unfortunately they don't know the reason why my kidneys have failed, and they are not in the situation to biopsy. But as of now they will have to admit in the hospital for a couple of days to monitor me and decide the next course of action plan for me, which is going to be a dialysis, and eventually I would need a kidney transplant to live and continue a normal life. April 2024, I was diagnosed with a kidney failure, and after 8 months of dialysis, 6 months I actually did on my own at home, and 2 months I went to in Center One. I received a call that a kidney is waiting for me and was told to report within 2 hours. So I went to the hospital, California Pacific Medical Center, and received a kidney from an implant donor.
Going back to the story of the size of the kidney that was found by the doctors, they said it was 6.5 centimeter. What's the average size of the kidney of a human being?
So for the females, it's usually 9 to 11 centimeter is the average size of the kidneys. And for the males, it's like something between 11 to 14 centimeter, a little larger.
Okay. And what was the journey after that? You went through a long dialysis journey, and then your pursuit for replacement kidneys went on. Is that right?
I was diagnosed with a kidney failure and learned that I would need a transplant.
Yeah.
So I started learning a lot about what is a kidney transplant, how should I get registered to different hospitals, and what are the different methods I can get a kidney. Like one is the deceased donor, and there's also a living donor one. And I also learned the waiting time for each one, and also how I need to talk to my nephrologist and even the social worker in the dialysis center to understand different steps involved in the evaluation and things to be prepared for while I am waiting for the kidney. And then I also ask for if somebody wants to be my living kidney donor, does it needs to be immediate family or it can be a stranger too?
Mm-hmm.
Because in India, only an immediate family can be a kidney donor, but in US it's not the case. People here donate the kidneys on the philanthropic basis. I know many people who have given their kidneys to strangers they don't even know.
Can I just pause? You also said about a deceased donor. Tell us about that. Is it very common here in this country?
Yeah, it is a very common over this country. So when you go to the DMV and sign up for getting a state ID or a license, so they ask you this question: do you want to be an organ donor? So this is what I meant by deceased donor.
Okay.
So in case there is an incident, like you met with a life-threatening condition or accident, that doctors are not able to save you, so your family has an option to donate your organs. And if you don't know, just by donating your organs, 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, heart, pancreas, liver, you can save up to 8 lives and even corneas. And if you become a tissue donor, your tissues can save up to 72 lives. So a lot of times, if you see a lot of breast cancer survivors, they use tissues from these organ donors and tissue donors to grow these breasts for the breast cancer survivors.
Oh, I did not know that. Tell me just one other question. How long do these organs have to be kept alive to be transported and trans to another person's organ?
I don't know about the technical terms, but even for a deceased donor to be eligible to be a donor, your death needs to be in this certain circumstances.
Huh.
And also there's a time frame which the doctors and the medical team decides. I am not the right person to talk about those. They check for those things, and once they take the organ, they usually they do a lot of testing on the organ as well to make sure that it is in the right condition to be donated to other person. Because many times, like I actually got my kidneys from Utah, these kidneys get damaged during the transportation itself.
What are the main challenges you went through during this journey?
Firstly, was the biggest challenge was that accepting it mentally from the patient side. Okay, you need to be more careful about yourself. You need to be more adherent to the doctor visit. Be careful even what to eat, what to drink, and even maintaining a healthier lifestyle and keeping your health on top of anything else. And since where I live, people are workaholic, we tend to give more importance to our work rather than our health.
I agree. So, talking about making adjustments to your food habits, rather, what kind of changes in the food habits did you have to make?
A lot of food changes because when I was working, most of the time I was eating out or eating in the office, and during the dialysis time, because of these heavy medications and my kidneys are not functioning properly, I was on a very strict diet. I could not take a lot of foods rich in potassium and phosphorus like potatoes, tomatoes, bananas, mango, or even chocolates, for example, or even dairy.
Ah,
And if for my dietary needs, I've had only very limited options available to me. And they require these food to be cooked in a very hygienic manner because my
Okay.
body is already immunocompromised. So I have to start cooking more often at home. And after transplant, it became much more harder because I have to be even careful. Even like the water I'm drinking right now, it's all boiled. If I go out, I have to be careful about that, but either carry the water from my own home or do not drink it at all. Just get the filtered water. And I used to love sandwiches, but I cannot eat any sandwich which has raw vegetables at all,
Oh.
or even salads. And there are certain fruits like grapefruit and pomegranate I have to avoid because they interfere with my immunosuppressants and can land me up in the hospital. Since I'm a vegetarian, a lot of the restrictions do not apply to me, like eating sushi or undercooked meat or runny egg yolk. But there's another challenge. Whatever you're eating, it should be fresh, properly cooked, and even the water, simple thing is the water needs to be very well boiled.
filter, boiled. Yeah. About the pursuit of finding your donor, could you walk us through that journey itself?
Oh, yes. So, when I got diagnosed with the kidney failure and learned that I would need a transplant, I started understanding how the entire transplant process here works, what are my options, and I realized with the current waiting time in California of 6 to 8 years, if I want to get kidneys fast, I will have to advocate myself. Either I can look for a friends or family, or I will have to look for a stranger. And I was initially shocked because I come from a culture where asking the organs to live is not something people usually
Yeah.
expect.
Exactly.
But I did more research around Reddit and everywhere in the social media. Seems like in this country, it's a pretty common thing.
Yeah.
I'm not doing something which is new. A lot of people had done before. So I started looking out for a ways how I can reach my voice to better people. So I came across a non-profit kidneysolution.org. I called them up, connected
So
with
let's listen. The Kidney Solutions
.org.
.org. Okay.
Yeah, it's run by a person known as Ken Presla. He himself is a kidney transplant patient and a cancer survivor. So they actually have a Zoom call and even link the patients to the mentors to guide them on finding the donor. Like they sent me a couple of posters that I can share in my market area or the places I know, and even with my friend circle that I'm looking out for a kidney donor. And instead of giving my personal information, they put their information.
Ah,
Because they actually, if somebody is even interested, they guide the donor through the entire process, help him fill the form required by the transplant center, walk him through the entire step. Because even as a living donor, the process is not easy.
okay.
You need to be not only tested on the physical measures and biomarkers, but also need to be mentally strong. They actually do the mental evaluation and psychometric testing for the patients as well as donors, and also understand there is no financial gain involved.
Yes, because the kidney transplantation, I was watching a movie recently. In the Indian movie, I don't remember what language it was, because it's a big racket going on that people can make a lot of money out of that.
Exactly. So they're very careful in US about what are the donor's intention behind donating a
Right.
kidney to somebody he don't
It has to
need.
be purely willfully done.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got the posters from the Kidney Solution, so I just used to go to my marketplaces, Starbucks, and place the poster out there.
Fantastic. Is that a lot at all in this country?
It's something like people actually have been
Okay.
doing forever. It's not only me. I know many people
Yeah.
who have got the kidneys from the strangers because they were able to spread the word.
Okay, that's
So
good. That's
it's
good.
not I have not taken something new.
Okay.
It might be something new for the people from the other
Okay.
part of the world.
Okay, you actually set the trend, saying, okay, you can actually do this by posting this. Okay, I'm looking for a kidney. I'm suffering. One of my kidneys has failed. I'm looking for it, and Starbucks is a perfect place for such an advertisement or so-called SOS call rather than anything else, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And even just by that one, when I actually received my transplant, I was told that somebody had actually saw the poster, called the number given on the poster, and connected with them and filled the form. And they were actually undergoing evaluation. I did not receive the kidney from them, but I did see that whatever work I had done landed some fruitful results.
Fantastic.
So if you want something, if you want to live and need any organ, be it kidney or a liver, you need to just spread your word.
Absolutely, and you did exactly that.
Yeah. I come from engineering background and did a lot of consulting work. So I just basically what I was doing at the work. So I just made like finding a kidney donor for myself as my mini project and come up with like a creative plan to spread my word across. I reached out to the newspapers, radio channels to share my story. I started my YouTube channel talking like who am I, why I need a transplant, and what it will enable me.
So what exactly worked eventually?
Eventually, I got a call from a hospital and was told to reach in 2 hours. There was an infant kidney waiting for me. My kidneys are more younger than me.
Wow.
It came from a child less than 1 year old, and instead of one kidney, which usually people get, I got the two kidneys. They are like this size, but they staple it like this and place it in your abdomen area.
Fantastic. And your original kidneys are still there?
Yes,
And
they do not
you-
remove
they
your
don't-
original kidney. This is a question a lot of people have asked me all time. They don't remove it until they are causing some havoc in your body.
Huh. Okay, so the new pair of kidneys are placed right in front of your old kidneys, and they're just stapled in front of your old kidneys.
Yeah.
And the way it functions is that the new kidneys automatically, or rather in some mechanically, or in a medical terms, they take over the old functionality.
Exactly, and what the people do not know in these cases, since I got the kidneys from infant, they were pretty small. Over a period of time, these kidneys expand.
Fantastic. Okay.
So I know the exact size when I got the transplant, and right now as well, because whenever I go for ultrasound, that's the first question I ask: what is the size of kidneys now?
Wow. Okay.
And even if like somebody has received a kidney from a living donor, what they don't know that if you're a kidney donor, even though you have one kidney in your body, it expands and start working more effectively.
Huh. Is that true only for infant kidneys, or is that true for regular kidneys? Like if you have been implanted with an adult kidney, that does also grow, or is this case only for an infant kidney that has been transplanted?
I know on the donor side, like if I know cases where the person had donated a kidney, he was a living donor. So he actually shared his story that his original kidney, which was in body, it expanded. And he also shared like he donated his kidney to his mother. Now the combined functionality of both the kidneys is much more than what the two kidneys together in one body will do.
Fantastic. Good.
You're not only improving your own kidney function, you're also improving somebody else's.
Somebody else's. Fantastic. Congratulations, and you are living a very good life now, and I can see that you're glowing and living a successful and healthy life. Tell me, during this journey, you must have come across a lot of people, a lot of misconceptions around people. Are, oh, you're going through this transplantation, and what are the success rate? What is the success rate? What's the failure rate? All kinds of things. Right, your own family people may be asking you because they're all new to all this thing. What are the common misconceptions that people have in general about kidney transplant?
They have a lot of misconceptions,
Okay.
like even not only about the transplant but about the kidney disease. Because when my father was diagnosed with kidney failure in 2012,
Is that right?
he is no more in the world. So I told one of my roommate, I was living in Bangalore, and her reply was like, "Oh, he's not going to live longer." This was the instant reply,
Mm.
which was like a very shocking for me to accept at that point of a time. Yeah, eventually we lost my father in 2013. He got a stroke and he had other complications too. But when I was diagnosed, I started talking to the patients. I did realize that even for the chronic disease, people still live for many years on dialysis and even on the transplant. That's like a biggest misconception, that do not assume that the medical technology has improved a lot. Even with the you might not have a great lifestyle, but you would be able to live. And another misconception is that can a person be do good even with one kidney? Or
Yeah.
this is like a biggest misconception.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can. That's why the doctors and scientists have come up with the kidney transplant many years ago. Like
Mhm.
I know a person who received her kidneys 51 years back from father, and they're still working perfectly fine.
Wow, nice, very nice. Just taking time back to your father's time, going tracing back the time. You said he had his one of the kidneys failed.
Both of his kidneys had
Both of
failed.
his
He was
kidneys.
actually undergoing peritoneal dialysis and got infection, so he had to be readmitted in hospital multiple times. And during his last few months, he was totally in the hospital. He spent last few months of his life in hospital.
Do you think if he had found a donor, he could have survived?
To be honest, to even get a kidney transplant, you have to undergo a lot of medical procedures and clearance.
Okay.
It's not only that thing, there are many factors that come into the picture. Like when I was undergoing evaluation with 4 different hospitals, everywhere I go, I spend like the first day just talking to the medical team, doctors, social workers, financial persons, nurses, to understand the entire journey. The next thing that I know is that I have to go for a lot of blood work and even other tests as well. Even they tested my strength training in UC Davis when I was doing transplant evaluation. They asked me, "Can you take 10 rounds of this place in 1 minute?" And they tried actually a little bit of a heavy lifting website because they wanted to know that how fast my body can recover after transplant. And in some places, they also check your dental health, and many people are actually refused transplant because of their dental health.
Is that right?
Yeah, and also they check on a lot on the antibodies, because when they are trying to find a perfect kidney for you, they do a check on what antibodies you have in your body and what is the other person drinking in. And also a lot on the blood group, age, those factors also take place. And when I learned these entire mechanisms that goes behind, so actually the transplant was never an option for my father because he had a lot of underlying issues.
That's sad. Okay. Now, you are going through dialysis for a brief while and you're going through a lot of drugs, taking a lot of drugs for your kidney failure. And at the same time, you are in the market for searching for a donor. How hard was it for you as a person, as an individual, to go through all these things in parallel? It must have been, and you are going through it all alone, I'm guessing, or did you have some family support, friend support to fight that battle?
So there is a saying, you never search alone. When I used to search for the jobs, did I search alone? No. I actually used to always be with my friends, either from the undergrad during that time or the friends from my graduate school. The same is the case with finding a kidney. You do not search alone. That's why I started reaching out to the organizations working in this
Okay.
space and connected with a lot of folks from NKR, Kidney Solutions, and a lot of other organizations and other patients. And in fact, that's how I met your partner Shobha. During one of those talks, somebody introduced me to her.
Okay. That's good.
And since I was doing two things, undergoing job and donor thing, I had a full circle of friends and family along with me to help me out.
That's very nice.
If I need referral, there was somebody to help me out. If I need mock interview practice, there was somebody to help me out. And even for the kidney donors thing, I had like a support network already in place.
Mm-hmm. Looking back, Deepthi, what is that one thing that you're very proud of?
I'm very proud of like after transplant, I was able to start building mobile applications because I had done a lot of coding before, but I never thought I could build an application which could help somebody like me managing the medications and managing the diet after transplant. So I turned into a vibe coder or slash application developer.
Tell us about your application.
So I've developed actually multiple applications.
Okay.
The major of them are MediMate to support the patients through their medical journey. Because as a transplant patient, I had a hard time remembering what medicines I'm taking in, what are their doses, and their dosage keep on changing all the time. And most importantly, taking this medication on time.
Exactly.
Like I have like a schedule like 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. every day to take these medicines on time. I want somebody to remind me. So I built an application for them. And even added a certain features like appointments because a lot of times I spend every month just setting up my calendar in putting in place for the ultrasound appointment with the primary care provider, appointment with the transplant team, appointment with the nephrologist.
Wow.
So this application came handy. And the funny thing is that anytime I had an appointment, they asked me, "Can you bring your entire medication with you?" Now I have this this app and can show them. This is my entire list of application. It shows the dosage. It shows the time I'm taking in. I'm taking the medication. It also shows my blood pressure and temperature over a period of time because I have to record my blood pressure and temperature every day. It has all the information. You just get this information from this application. And another app, and I am very proud of MediMate because I developed it on my own, and I took help of a couple of friends to help test it and improve it better. And we were able to plug in a lot of APIs to send voice alerts and SMS alerts and email alerts. And the another one is Nourishly, which is like helping the people suffering from chronic kidney disease find kidney-friendly recipes for them, depending on their mood and even with what stage of kidney disease they are in. It also takes into requirement any kind of allergies or special requirements kidney patients have, low sodium, low potassium, low phosphorus. And I added extra feature to cook along, as well as you can choose how you want to cook the dish, by Instapot, by air fryer or normal stove.
Very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice. Very nice. So talking about this tailor-made AI tool that takes care of your medication, your BP, your sugar level, your schedules, and all that. Okay, is that only for your purpose, or can it be used for somebody else also?
I initially developed it for myself because I wanted to be the first beta tester.
Sure.
But then I started talking to other patients and saw it can also help others. So that's the reason.
So it can be repurposed for somebody else. also.
Exactly. So we're just trying to improve this application further. And I've been actually joked. There are applications like MediSafe already in the market for the ear. What is your application doing different? I'm like, this is made by a patient. That makes it a different.
You know exactly what has to be monitored.
And I actually checked who made the MediSafe.
Okay.
The person's father had a medical condition. I'm like, he was not the patient. I'm the patient, and I'm the first user. That makes an entire
And
difference.
since you're AI savvy and you're a data scientist also, and on top of it, you have been a kidney transplant recipient, so you know the whole thing together. You know you're part of the entire ecosystem, and you are the right person to be writing the code itself.
Exactly. People need to understand the patients are the one who are going to drive the innovation in AI in healthcare. These applications are going forward are going to be made by the patients with the AI. They don't need to be learning code. All they need to do is like come up with the problem and a creative solution.
And you are both the problem and the solution here. And no outsider can understand this problem and the solution better than you.
Yeah, I used to write automations before building apps. So when I was actually discharged from hospital, I got a pill box and I got like 3 sheets of paper which had information about my medication and pencil and an eraser. They told me anytime your medication changes, you update this sheet of paper. I automated these things.
Of course.
I don't like manual data
Of
entry.
course. course.
So I'm like, I have an app for it.
Okay.
If they change the dosage, all I do is that open the app, update the dosage, and automatically update my pill box, because I have this weekly duty of filling my pill box.
Okay.
I just do the one-time job, set up the pill box for an entire week, and then I don't have to open my bottles ever in the entire week.
Okay, great. Back to what you started off talking about your food restrictions, water restrictions. You can't have grapefruit, you can't have potatoes, have to be done this way and this and that. Once you're done with the transplant, what was that the food that you actually reached out for? First thing.
I was actually craving for mangoes and
Mangoes.
potatoes.
Okay. Okay.
I come from a part of India where the people love aloo parathas.
Oh my
Potato
God. Who
parathas.
doesn't love aloo parathas? Okay.
And then I was diagnosed. Was not able to eat potatoes.
That's the
and-
biggest punishment anybody
That's
can
the
have.
biggest punishment anybody
Yes,
could
yeah.
have. So I did not have the potato parathas because I have to be very careful about the oily and high sugar
Yes.
food. But even then, even having a small potato curry or something in the potato in any form is a blessing in itself.
Yeah, yeah. A rapid fire round for you, Deepthi. Coffee or tea?
Tea, always tea.
All right, okay. Spicy or sweet?
Sweet.
Sweet, okay. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird. I wake up at 6 o'clock.
Is that right?
Yeah.
6 o'clock is what you call early? Okay.
My team sits in East Coast, so after kidney transplant, this is one of the rule I made.
Okay, okay. What's your healthy go-to snack?
Healthy, sweet potato chaat.
Ooh, okay, okay. And so what else? Are you a morning workout person or an evening walk person?
Evening walk.
Deepthi, now that we are part of the Wellness Circuit podcast, what are the wellness habits you swear by?
Firstly, get your labs on time, because after transplant, I have to get my labs once every month. Eventually, when I started my journey after transplant, I used to go to lab twice a week. Then slowly they moved me to once a week, and then twice a week, now once a month. So I have to be regularly monitored. So even if you're a normal person, do not have anything to do with the kidney disease, always get your labs like every 6 months or every 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had my uncle recently diagnosed with the prostate cancer accidentally, because he was going through all the body tests and all those things, and he found urine in his blood.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Yeah, please get your lab work done on the regular basis. Secondly, be careful about what you eat. A lot of things seem tempting but not be good for your health. Like I had stopped a lot of outside food after transplant, especially salads and uncooked things, and even processed cheeses you see, or even fruits, because I'm not sure how well they are washed or cooked.
Okay.
And even like 30-second rule, which usually people follow when something fell down,
Yeah.
I do not use that. And I have stopped takeouts altogether. Even if I cook something at home, I make sure that it's properly cooked.
Yeah, I agree.
And many times I end up actually making a lot of khichuris or porridge.
However boring it is, it's still good for health and good health, right?
I don't have to put too much efforts in cooking.
Yeah.
I just overcook it to avoid any kind of an infection, and just mix any kind of a rice, quinoa, vegetables, lentils, whatever is available
Yeah.
in it.
Makes sense.
And if I want to eat something fancy, I make the cutlets out of each and everything. I can
Ah.
make cutlets of lentils, I can make cutlets of paneer, potatoes, sweet
Oh,
potatoes, each and everything.
okay.
I have an air fryer. Mostly I use air fryer and Instapot for all my cooking needs.
Excellent, excellent. Very
And
nice.
third habit, walk a lot. I don't do that personally myself, but everyone needs to walk. This is something which I would always advise. I was never a person who had a proper health even in the starting. I got my specs when I was 2 years old, and as a kid I was very clumsy, so I have got stitches all over my face.
Is that right? Oh.
And even fractured my ankle 3 times, 2 times right ankle and 1 time left ankle.
Okay, interesting. Interesting.
So when I got the kidney transplant, I was like, okay.
Okay, just another switch. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So three things, as you said, were get your labs done regularly and avoid eating out, avoid salads, etc., and eat home cooked meal as much as possible.
Not
And
oily, not sugary.
Not oily, not sugary. And third was walking as much as possible. And 10K is just a suggested number. You could do more, you could do slightly less, but that's the suggested number. That's
Yes, there are too many apps to support you in that one. I think
Oh,
people
yes.
follow Fit On. You have Apple Watch
Right.
or some smartwatches to keep a track of it.
Right. Any final message, final thoughts for our listeners of Wellness Circuit?
Eat healthy, keep laughing, because if you smile a lot, it actually automatically boosts your health.
That's true. Thank you very much, Aditi. Good luck. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.